All right. I don't think there's any category that's more attractive to buyers than pet care. And we're going to get into it in just a minute. Shaina is going to join us from Dogdrop. And be sure to subscribe. If you haven't hit that button, hit it. That's what I'm supposed to say. Coming up next, Meet the Zor. All right, Shaina, I'm really excited to talk about the business model. But before we get into the business model, we're going to start with you. How did you accidentally fall into franchising? What's your franchise story?
Yeah, thanks, Nick. So a few years ago, I got a dog. And like many people, was quite naive. How hard could it be? The usual questions. I even pre-pandemic was working from home most of the time, so I was more than able to physically be at home, take care of my dog. But I just needed a place to drop her off for a couple hours at a time. I'd take her out for a walk and would come back even 45 minutes later, and she'd look at me and be like, "Okay, so that's it." So I stumbled upon a dog daycare, probably about 10 minutes away from my house. I looked online, did my diligence as a modern day pet parent, looked at the Yelp reviews, looked up on Google, and really was disappointed. Tried again and again, different dog daycares, and just was let down with my expectations, especially what I was experiencing in my human life. Somehow got fixated on this issue and thought I'd create the most convenient, flexible, and highest quality dog daycare.
Okay, so go back to creating the business. At what point does franchising come into that? Or was that a part of the original game plan when you started going down this pathway?
Our game plan was, like I mentioned, convenience. And so when we started, we didn't know exactly how we were going to get there, but that we wanted to be everywhere. And, after the first year or so, we realized that we created a very repeatable model. And because we created it with this intention that from day one, we had the systems and foundation in place. And so it made a ton of sense. And we also realized in this category that trust is obviously one of the number one things that dog parents or customers are looking for. And there's no better way to ensure trust for a customer than to have an owner-operator type of business. And so that's how we fell into franchising. And ever since, have been obsessed with the model and learning from other folks, and really excited to work with more great and high caliber franchisees.
How many franchisees do you currently have?
We currently have 2. And so we started franchising earlier last year and looking to expand more. But we're in Denver, and the next franchise location will open in Fort Lauderdale in April of this year.
So out of curiosity, how did those 2 buyers make it to you? How did you get those first 2?
Yeah, both have been kind of, I'm like trying to remember. The first one was an intro from one of our investors, met with someone else and their friend, kind of that long story. Somehow someone thought like, hey, I have an idea for a great dog daycare. And someone said like, actually, I know someone who's doing that. So that was the first one. And the second one was through the usual Google searches, and somehow stumbled upon our website.
Okay. Ultimately you're in a category where I'll say there's automatically a passion play, which is what I said in the opening. Like people love pets. I think pets and children, like children care and pet care, are the 2 easiest pathways, because majority of brands call it home service brands. As a child, I don't dream of owning a pool service brand. I may have a dream of owning a pet care brand, or being a veterinarian, or something that is somewhat adjacent, so that love stays there. Plus, the pet is such an intimate experience that, I could look at, just mine's laying down right over there. I could look at how much we're willing to invest in that, in our pet. They're part of our family. So therefore, what other businesses do we look at? On the corporate store, when I'm putting the numbers on here, did you go through basically building out the prototype model?
Yeah. So in 2019, we got started on building out our first location that we opened in 2020. So we wanted to first, does it work, right? Can we put these smaller footprint? So we need around 2,200 square feet. Our first location is only 1,600 square feet. Can we put these on the ground floor of multifamily properties? Can we get landlords to help subsidize some of our costs, because we're positioning ourselves as a property amenity? And then does the monthly membership model work? And how much our members, looking to pay per month, or how much can we get them to pay ultimately? And then the third is really on this new model that we've created is an essentially new category called the quick stop category. So long term, we don't believe that people need, or majority of Americans need, Monday through Friday 9 to 5 dog daycare, but that most people in somewhat urban areas need a couple hours at a time. And so we created this notion that we pay in 30-minute increments with the daily cap, that you could have access in and out throughout the day. And we just sort of checked those boxes, and it worked.
Do you do boarding too?
Nope. So no one owns the daycare category, and that's what we own and we do best. We're also going in more convenient areas, so we don't have to worry about zoning issues. We're zoned for regular retail, makes the real estate side a lot more simple. And for owners, whenever you have a dog or customer under your care, you're always on and kind of sleeping with one eye open. So from the owner operator model, that's attractive. And when we're looking to put these on every corner, we don't necessarily think that there needs to be a boarding facility on every corner, but a convenient spot for your dog to play should be there.
I have a few comments, but one more question. Are you doing an item 19? Are you disclosing how much you made?
We don't have an item 19 in last year's FDD.
Is there plans to get there?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Like any early stage franchisor, I think you're advised and from investors and legal and getting into all that. But of course, our goal is essentially to see how to be as transparent as possible.
Yeah, I mean, the transparency is key. And look, at the end of the day, whatever numbers you disclose or whatever numbers happen in your first two franchisees, there's going to be variables. But in a world where the franchise buyer is looking at comparables, they're going to want to have an answer. Now, obviously, a franchise buyer can call your two franchisees as they get going and ask them questions that can give them a pathway to understanding at least projections. But I think that's a good tool to add. The other thing that I'll say is two things. When I look at the business, love the way that you're setting it up. I think the magic of not doing boarding is tremendous on the business opportunity for exactly what you just said. It's almost like you want to lead with that because you want to paint the picture of what does this lifestyle look like. And if you're looking at a competitive investment in the space, most of the competitive investments and most are going to be slightly higher than what you're at too, but they're going to come with a lot more responsibility of the franchise owner. So, if I look at a category that's always been there, breakfast has always been there. And then out of nowhere comes the better breakfast brands that are open from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. So that you can own a restaurant and have a life alongside that. Here you're setting that up. And the last thing I'll say, and would love your feedback on this, but I would always encourage that brands don't sell brands, people do. That you have a great story. You built a business, you navigated through COVID, given COVID was good in the sense that everybody got a dog during COVID, but you navigated this thing, launched it, secured investors, which I do think is super valuable as a franchise prospect. I look at it and say, okay, that's a big part of the win. So I think lifting up some more of your story could have tremendous value to who I'm buying from and give me the ability to see myself day in the life of your shoes,
Yeah, appreciate that. I think definitely sharing what is there's no absentee owner in this business, and what is the lifestyle. It's, you're taking care of people's dogs. It's very similar to childcare, the way that it's a membership model, so that our members, the expectation of the level of care, the training, the availability, the responsiveness, all of that is key to ultimately providing a 6-star experience, which is what we do at Dogdrop.
What were you doing before you did this?
Right before I started Dogdrop, I had actually been living and working in China for about 3.5 to 4 years. So definitely nothing in pet and nothing in franchising. I went to business school there, fell in love with it, ended up working with the Xiaomi group, so the largest consumer electronic company, and was doing their market entry to North America and European markets. And then then I moved up to Beijing from a few years in Shanghai and was working with a Beijing-based EV company and business development operations. So that's actually what brought me back up to the US. And I thought it was a great idea after a couple of years abroad to get a dog on the exact same day I moved back. We basically literally met at LAX together. And I wasn't working until around 3 p.m. because I was still working China hours. So I was like, oh, I'm free all the time. This be the perfect time to get a dog. And so I had a few extra hours in the day to spend with her and tinker on other ideas.
Go back to four years ago. You're abroad. If you were to tell that version of yourself that this was your future, would you have believed it?
Definitely not. And I think that's what gives us this advantage at Dogdrop into really being super customer, and we say it like human centric just as much as dog centric. We're so many pet brands. Obviously, the key is the dog's safety, health, and happiness. So got that. That's the minimum expectation if you're a dog care provider is the safety, health, and happiness of your core client, but really we're focused on the human experience as well. And so when I came back and I was experiencing all these things, like back in, and I'm in Los Angeles, okay, from the gym that I go to the facial bar, to this and that, and that really a high service level that I was seeing, and was totally missing in the dog care space. So I thought that's where we had a massive opportunity to focus on convenience and flexibility on the human as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, the journey into an entrepreneur can be turbulent and unpredictable. What's your dream now? I mean, obviously you got these two first franchisees. Are they open yet?
We have a location in Denver open, and then the Fort Lauderdale will be open, aiming for April of 2024.
Okay. So now that you have these two, what's the dream for this year and beyond?
Yeah, so I think when we see the opportunity for Dogdrop, it's beyond, like tier 1 cities too. I happen to be in Los Angeles, which is a killer market for pet care and fundraising and venture capital as well. And obviously a massive market for pet parents. But that pet parent opportunity, the Dogdrop opportunity expands much more beyond Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, and San Francisco. And that's why when the next markets we're looking at are those Denver, Fort Lauderdale, rather than just Miami. And when we're looking at, obviously next one's Austin, things like Phoenix, Portland, Charlotte are all of interest. And we're a very tech first company. We actually build all the software that runs our locations. So when I look at ourselves from the franchisor, we're a software company that is selling franchises, and we build out all the operations, the brand, the marketing playbooks, really focused on the training of our staff. And that's really what our company is. And we use the technology platform to enable all of those components. So I look for, people that are looking to operate a business in that type of model.
Have you noticed trends or data on the distance people are willing to travel to get to you, or based on what you're saying as an amenity to a condo association or apartment? Is the convenience factor so critical that you can't maybe not be like how many subways there are, but you can have many locations in a city because of the convenience factor?
Definitely. Of course, depends per market, per city, but we think in terms of blocks, not miles. That at our locations now, we see 70% of our members live within a 10-minute walk of Dogdrop. I mean, if there's a dog daycare downstairs from your apartment, it has to be so shitty that you're willing to get in the car and park and go somewhere else and go out of your way to not go down to the one downstairs, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And people will go the extra mile for your dog. But in pet care, the bar is, unfortunately, it's low, which leaves us a great opportunity that when you come in and you're like, what? You guys responded to my text message. within 2 minutes. You had curbside. Your people are trained. They have initial training, continuous training. Like, you send updates. You're engaging with my dog. You don't have 50 dogs in one person. You have a 15-to-1 ratio. And now there are other models and larger franchises that are doing, they're really upping their level of care too.
Yeah.
But across the US, the bar is low, and that's our opportunity, is to standardize that quality of care. And we hope that more people do that, whether it's not just us, because for the dogs as well, that they deserve a better level of care.
Out of curiosity, what keeps you up at night? I mean, it's not, you don't have to worry about the pets, but obviously I would assume it swings more business.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Fortunately, the last few months, nothing's really kept me up past 10 p.m. It's always people, right? So we are in the people business as much as it's the pets. And to deliver on our promise. When I talk about the 6-star experience, it starts for me, but it ends at our locations and the people there every day to really deliver on this promise. And it's awesome to see when you see our Yelp reviews too, and they're using the words that we use internally too, like a 6-star experience, level of care, flexibility, convenience, all these words that we say 100 times, and you start seeing your members regurgitate that back. And so that kind of ethos is what I think of, like how to keep people motivated and excited to deliver on our promise, essentially.
Love it. Shaina, let's close with this. There's a candidate that's watched to this point. They're intrigued. What else do you want them to know about the business opportunity?
I want them to know we're an early stage company, and we're looking for people who are looking to build their next big venture, right? And so when I talk to candidates, I want to say, like, do you believe in our team? Do you believe in the systems and processes that we have? Do you believe in the pet care market? And do you believe yourself as an operator that you can make this a profitable business?
I think that's the great pathway. And now if I bought your business, I would take exactly what you just said in that order. And that's how I'd redo your website. What you just ran through, Listen back to this, go redo your website, put your story front and center, because you're in the people business. Lift up your people, get your 2 franchisees on there too. You have the tools to win here. I love what you're doing. I think there's plenty of room for disruption in the category. And I look forward to seeing where the story goes. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it.
For Shaina, I'm Nick. This is another episode of Meet the Zor.